This is the story of the 1971 India-Pakistan War. The 13 days war that saw Pakistan divided into two and brought Islamabad to its knees. This is also the most glorious chapter in the Indian military history, where the mighty Indian Army under Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw. This is the story of the India-Pakistan War of 1971, which led to the liberation of the eastern wing of Pakistan, now known as Bangladesh. The story dates back to the time when India became independent from the British in 1947. The nation was divided into two, India and Pakistan. The formation of Pakistan was complicated as two of its territories, West Pakistan and East Pakistan, were separated by around 2,000 kilometers of Indian territory. West Pakistan's obsession with Urdu at the expense of Bengali miffed East Pakistanis. In 1952, the community of students in East Pakistan rose against the imposition of Urdu. The movement was brutally suppressed, with Pakistan Army and police opening fire at the demonstrators. Mujibur Rahman-led Awami League launched a protest against the deaths. But language was only a part of the problem. East Pakistanis were grossly underrepresented in both civil and military services. The Bhola cyclone of 1970, after which West Pakistan refused funds for relief, infuriated the Bengalis. Mujibur Rahman's Awami League swept the election that followed, but was not allowed to form the next government. The talks between Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and Mujibur Rahman had to collapse. It did. The Bengalis of Pakistan took to the streets and refused to pay taxes. Pakistan was staring at a civil war. In a desperate attempt to suppress the strife, the Pakistani military launched a massive operation codenamed Operation Searchlight against the Bengali nationalist movement. Rahman was arrested. Foreign journalists were expelled. The Awami League was banned. The survivors of this attack formed the Mukti Bahini, the Bengali military forces which helped the Indian Army fight against Pakistan. The original plan was to take control of the major cities and then eliminate the political and military opposition within a month. In this duration, they killed more than 1 million Bengalis. Too shocking but true, the Punjabi-dominated Pakistan army raped over 500,000 women, including children. A large number of refugees moved to India to escape the Pakistani army brutalities. India, with a fair share of economic issues, could not have let the influx continue. Then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi warned the international community India couldn't take refugees anymore. A war was still the last option for the historically peace-loving India that has never had territorial ambitions. But on December 3, 1971, shortly after 5:30 p.m., Pakistani fighter jets launched air attacks on Indian airports of Amritsar, Pathankot, Avantipur and Srinagar. Meanwhile, General Sam Manekshaw had warned the political leadership of India that a Pakistani attack was imminent. Far from getting caught unawares, India declared the airstrikes as an act of aggression against India and declared war against Pakistan. Pakistan followed the aerial attack with ground attacks on multiple flanks. On December 4, 1971, the Pakistani misfortune in the war began. They ran into 23 Punjab, now called Punjab Regiment, under Major Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri. He defeated an entire Pakistani armoured brigade and infantry with only 120 troops on his side in the desert sector at the Longewala post in Barmer. The same day, the Battle of Basantar started in the Punjab sector, where Indian troops repelled a major attack of Pakistani tank regiments, which could have hit Punjab on December 4th and 5th. On December 11th, Indian troops were working along with Mukti Bahini. Together, they liberated Hilli, Moimonshing, Kushtia and Noakhali. On December 12th, Indian paratroopers arrived to mount an assault on Dhaka, Madaripur and Tangail. These cities were liberated on the same day by evening. Pakistani troops received repeated calls by General Manekshaw to either surrender or face death. It sent shivers down the spines of the Pakistanis. They started surrendering in droves. On December the 16th, 1971, the Pakistani administration in East Pakistan crumbled. With no alternative left, Lieutenant General Niazi had to sign the instrument of surrender at Ramna Racecourse of Dhaka. Chants of Joy Bangla could be heard all over as Niazi signed and handed his revolver.
We started till here that finally the banker and the lawyer, they agree for the bet, right? And then they sign an agreement, right? And we also saw that somewhere or the other the banker also kept thinking that was it necessary for him to have this bet, because on the one hand he is losing his money, on the other hand the lawyer lost his 15 years, right? And just to prove what? Just to prove which is better, whether life imprisonment or execution. Okay, just for that sake, they have lost so many things. Now, the banker and the lawyer signed an agreement which laid down the minute details of the confinement. The lawyer must undergo his imprisonment in a room in the banker's garden. He would not leave the room, see any person, hear human voices, or receive letters and newspapers. So complete detachment from the world. Okay, whether it is his mobile phone, or whether it is his meeting people, or whether receiving letters or newspapers, he was completely detached. Okay, the lawyer, he could eat and drink whatever he pleased, have a musical instrument, and read books and write. Okay, only these things were provided to the lawyer while he was imprisoned. He would communicate his needs by means of written notes passed through a window specially constructed for this particular purpose. So it was like a jail kind, the prison kind experience. If he wanted to communicate, he would just have to write a note and put up in the window, which was just created for passing on his notes. So whatever he wanted, he had to write it down in that particular note and he had to pass. Clear? The period of confinement was exactly how many years? 15 years. Any attempt on lawyer's part would violate the conditions freed the banker from the obligation to pay him the 2 million. So it was, obligatory for the lawyer to follow whatever they have been decided in this particular agreement. Now, if at all, the lawyer fails to follow anything, what is going to be done? Here, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So he had to make sure that he follows whatever obligations has been set up for him. If he fails to do so, the agreement would be null and void. During the first year of imprisonment, the lawyer appeared to suffer terribly. Some loneliness, some boredom. Okay, this is but obvious. Okay, all of a sudden, if you are left alone, so definitely you are going to suffer. So same thing happened with the lawyer. First year, he suffered a lot. From his room day and night came the sound of a piano, and he asked for romantic novels, stories of crime and fantasy, and comedies. So he was allowed to do only two things, that is play music or read books. And he was also allowed to, give put it on the list if he wills to have anything, right? So this is what was happening with the lawyer throughout his imprisonment days. In the second year, okay, he no longer played the piano and asked only for classics. Okay, so gradually, can you see? Definitely, no one person cannot stick to one particular genre for a longer time. So second year, he asked for classics. In the fifth year, music was heard again. Okay, and the prisoner asked for wine. Those who watched him said he was only eating, drinking, and laying on his bed. Okay, to the people who were watching him, for them, he was like, he is just having a lavish life. He's eating, drinking, and lying on his bed. Okay. He often talked angrily to himself. He stopped reading. More than once, he was heard to weep. Okay. So at times, he used to read, at times he used to play piano, but then later on, he stopped doing that also. And most of the time, people found him weeping. Okay. And then, where it is, yeah. More once, he was heard to weep. In the second half of the sixth year, the prisoner began jealously to study languages, to study languages, philosophy, and history. Over the next 4 years, about 600 volumes were bought at his request. Okay, so can you see he developed the habit of reading? He read almost all the genres. During this time, the banker received the following letter from the prisoner. And what did the letter said? My dear jailer, I am writing these lines in 6 languages. The geniuses of all ages and countries speak in different languages, but in them all burns the same flame. Oh, if you know my heavenly happiness, now that I can understand them. Okay, so who has written this letter?
A lawyer.
Ma'am, the lawyer.
The lawyer.
To whom?
To the banker.
To the banker. And what is he mentioning?
Ma'am, to the
Trying to tell the banker while being in the prison? What is he trying to show?
ma'am, that you are a jailer type of.
No, through the words, through the letter, what do we come to know? What do we interpret? Whatever he has written, my dear jailer, I am writing these lines in 6 languages. What do you think that he's trying to show to the banker?
That he has learned 6 languages.
He has learned so many languages. So don't you think he's trying to show that he is no more regretting of being imprisoned for so many years?
Yes.
He's trying to show that to the banker, right?
Yes, ma'am.
After the 10th year, the lawyer sat immovable before his table and read only the New Testament. The banker found it strange that a man who in 4 years had mastered 600 scholarly volumes should spend nearly a year reading one book, easy to understand and by no means thick. The New Testament was then replaced by the history of religious and theology. Okay, so he kept on referring to different literatures. So towards the 10th year, what was the new genre he started reading? It was the New Testament.
Religion.
Okay, so now even the banker was surprised that this particular person had read so many, genres, so many literature till now, and now all of a sudden, how can he sit with one book at one table? And which was that book? Which was that book, children?
Testament.
The New Testament.
New Testament. Okay. The banker recalled all this and thought, tomorrow at 12 o'clock, he receives his freedom. Under the agreement, I shall have to pay him 2 millions. If I pay, it's all over with me. I'm utterly ruined. So now the banker is recalling what? Tomorrow, 12 o'clock, he's going to achieve the freedom and the banker will have to give him the money. Am I audible? Okay. All right, and that is what 2 millions is not a less amount. So somewhere or the other, don't you feel the banker is also regretting? Yes, somewhere? Yes. 15 years before he had too many millions of count. Now he had as made debts as money. Gambling on the stock exchange had gradually ruined his business. The once self-confident, proud men of business now trembled at every rise and fall in the market. Okay, so now can you see both of them are regretting, and both of them are facing the problems, isn't it? We could see the condition of the lawyer in the prison. What is he going to, how is he trying to entertain himself? How is he getting mad, staying alone for such a long period? And on the other hand, we could also see how the banker is regretting. He's only 40 years old, murmured the old man, clutching his head in despair. He will take away my last farthing, marry, enjoy life, and I will look on like an envious beggar. No, it's not too much. There's only one way to avoid bankruptcy and disgrace. This is not a small amount, right? 2 millions is pretty much a bigger amount, right? So now he's just he don't want to give his money away. So now he's just regretting, and he's wishing that I just hope the lawyer dies. Why did they make this bet? Yeah, so you are feeling now that it is, that this bet was not required at all, but most of the people do land up doing such bets when it comes to their self-respect and when it comes to their ego. So this happens even in real life. The clock struck 3. Everyone in the house was asleep. He took from his safe the key of the door, which had not been opened for 15 years, put on his overcoat, and went in the garden. It was dark and cold. A damp, penetrating wind howled among the trees. Approaching the garden room, the banker struck a match and peeped into the little window. A candle was burning dimly. The prisoner sat by the table. Open books were strewn and about on the table, the 2 chairs, and on the carpet near the table. Okay, so now they are describing the situation. Now, almost 15 years is over. Now, let's see what happens. Time passed, and the prisoner never once stirred. 15 years confinement had taught him what? 15 years had taught him what? Him to sit motionless. Please underline. That's what he was doing, right? Then the banker cautiously put the key into the lock. The rusty lock gave a groan, and the door creaked. The banker expected to hear a cry of surprise and sounds of steps, but it was quiet as it had been before he entered. So, see, now the banker has approached the room. He tried to open the room. So, and what he was expecting that maybe the lawyer would be happy because he would be free now, have freedom after, almost 15 years. But what was the condition of the lawyer? What do you think? What was the condition of the lawyer after sitting alone for 15 years? Completely exhausted, and he had now learned to sit motionless for a longer period. So this happens when you reach to the highest level of that, that particular sitting alone, and a person cannot sit alone for a longer time. Man is a social being. He needs people around him. Okay, now the man at the table was a skeleton with tight drawn skin, long unruly hair, and a shaggy beard. The color of his face was yellow, the cheeks were sunken, and the hand upon which he leaned his head was so lean and skinny that it was painful to look upon. His hair was already silvering with gray. No one seeing the emaciation of the face would believe that he was only 40 years. On the table lay a sheet of paper on which he had been writing. Poor devil, thought the banker. He's asleep and probably dreaming of millions. It will take only a moment to smother him with the pillow, and no one will suspect an unnatural death. But first, let me read what he has written here. So now, see, basically, on one hand, the banker is thinking that he's just 40 years old. Now he'll have freedom. He'll go back, and I think it's time up. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am. 5 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so sorry. I'll just stop here. We'll continue in the next class, okay?